Roll call for the City Council meeting of Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Members Witherspoon, Brzezinski, Flores, Nelson, Schaaf, Titus, and Troop.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and silent meditation.
Council,
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just wanted to mention the young man who lost his life last week. We are losing another young person in our community to gun violence, and I'm not quite sure what we can do as a whole to get ahead of this. But the fact that people are being able to access guns in our community and the alarming rate in which young people are passing away far too soon beyond their potential is alarming, and we need to do something. I don't know how we do it, but we need to do better for our young people who will be taking up the leadership roles in the coming years. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. We did lose another life for 2025.
Thank you very much. Clerk?
Motion for the minutes of the January 8th, 2025 City Council meeting be approved, and bills for payment on January 24th and 31st. Members Brzezinski, Flores, Nelson, Schaaf, Titus, Troop, Witherspoon.
Thank you very much. We have a presentation.
Mr. President, do I do the proclamation before or after the presentation?
I would say wait till let the presentation go first.
Okay, thank you. Brenda?
Just a little nervous, but we'll get through this. Good evening, and thank you for having me here this evening to discuss the importance of mentoring in a program called North Star Mentoring. Before I begin, can I have anyone that is present today who may already be a mentor in any program that we have here in the area stand and be recognized? If there happen to be any. Turn it on, all right. Anybody happen to be a mentor to any other type of program? Mr. Titus, I know you're one, because so, well, thank you for your time and dedication. January is National Mentoring Month, so thank you for your time and dedication. A tiny seed of knowledge sown in fertile ground, a mind to own, a mentor's hand, a guiding light, to nurture growth both day and night. With words like rain, the spirit fed, a seedling sprouts where doubts once bled. Though patient care the roots take hold, a story shared, a future told. Each lesson learned, a blossom bright, a budding mind with vision clear and light. A mentor's touch, a gentle breeze, empowering growth to reach the trees. The seeds of wisdom carefully placed in fertile minds, a legacy embraced. A bond of trust, a guiding hand, a mentee's journey through the land. So plant the seed and watch it rise, with every step new heights to prize. For mentorship's gift, a timeless art, a blooming future from the heart. This poem captures the essence of mentoring as a process of planting a seed of knowledge in a mentee's mind, nurturing its growth through guidance and support, and ultimately witnessing the blossoming of their potential. I'll touch a bit on my career and the background of the program I'm responsible for prior to covering the mentoring aspect. Again, my name is Brenda Martin. I have been employed by Bethesda Lutheran Services for about 17 years. My work in the social services field is probably approaching about double that. I was given the unique position of mentoring specialist 5 years ago within the program called the Erie County Independent Living Program. This program is a contractual and collaborative agreement between Family Services of Northwestern Pennsylvania, Bethesda Lutheran Services, and the Erie County Office of Children and Youth. We assist youth between the ages of 14 and 23 with life skills that are referred to us from the Office of Children and Youth or juvenile probation. The youth who are referred work with a case manager to build the skills needed to be young adults while learning the skills needed to live on their own. As part of that support is where my job duties come into play. If the youth is interested, I will recruit a volunteer who is willing to be a one-on-one mentor to that youth. The mentor that is recruited, trained, and supported is meant to guide, support, and help that youth feel sustained in their journey through life. I ask you now, how many of you have experienced the support of a caring adult in your life that helped shape who you are today? How many of you would be the same person today if you didn't have the support and guidance of that person in your life? That person you were thinking of was a mentor. Would you be willing to be that special person to a youth right here in Erie County? Since the year 2002, the President of the United States has proclaimed January as National Mentoring Month. Therefore, when I was approached about being given the opportunity to speak about North Star Mentoring, I specifically asked about the chance during the month of January. So again, I say thank you for this opportunity to highlight mentoring, especially during January. The volunteers we recruit go through the typical background checks they're required to interact with youth in Pennsylvania. We host them for a mentoring training to help them gain skills and build a relationship with the young person. We also have them complete an overview of trauma and the possibility of how it has played a part in the life of those we serve. Once a volunteer passes the clearances and supplies us with other identifying information, we look for the best match for them among our youth. Once matched with that youth, they work on building a foundation for their relationship with the assistance of other supports. Once the match feels comfortable with one another, they enjoy one-on-one time doing activities in and around Erie. Every other month, we host events that our matches are invited to, which have included miniature golf, a movie night, or an art activity. So I ask, who did you have in your life growing up that helped guide and support you? How would you have turned out without that person in your life? Are you willing to be that special person to someone else? I have flyers and brochures with me today. If any of you have a community outreach board you'd be willing to share information on, or if you yourself may be interested in becoming a mentor, you can touch base with me afterwards, or I can leave my contact information for future contact. So again, I appreciate the time and consideration for our program.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kathy?
Thank you. Thank you, Brenda. This National Mentoring Month, today, January 22nd, 2025, by Councilmember Schaaf, seconded by Councilmembers Brzezinski, Flores, Nelson, Titus, Troop, and Witherspoon. Resolved by the Council of the City of Erie that whereas the City Council of the City of Erie wishes to pay special tribute to North Star Mentoring of Erie County Independent Living Program and all of the mentors. And whereas mentoring helps young people with a history of foster care or out-of-home placement to make permanent connections with possible adult role models. Mentored young people are 46% less likely to get involved with drugs. 59% improved their grades, 86% went to higher education. 0% of youth outcomes for young people in mentoring relationships are directly correlated with the length of relationship, as time makes it stronger than ever. Whereas National Mentoring Month is an annual campaign celebrated in January, dedicated in raising awareness about the power and impact of mentoring. Let's recognize and honor the contributions of mentors while encouraging individuals to become mentors themselves. And therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Erie that we thank and celebrate the power of supportive and meaningful mentorship relationships, and recognizing the importance of mentoring and the impact it can have on students' experience, and extend our best wishes on all of their future motivations and positive guidance and influences. Thank you. Brenda, if you could come up, please. Thank you for all of you too. Thank you. And you can go across and she'll shake your hand.
We have our dinner for our appreciation for our mentors tomorrow night, so the timing of this is impeccable. Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there anyone here to speak on a repository sale? Is there anyone here to speak on a repository sale? One final time. Is there anyone here to speak on repository sale? Hearing none. Now we'll come to our public allowed to speak, to address council. This is your time to speak. Council will not dialogue with you, and you can speak to any council person at some other time after the meeting, etc. Yes, sir.
My name's Freda Tepper, and I live in the city of Erie. I'll start out with something I'm probably the only one will address. The sidewalk closure, 7 days of an unpermitted sidewalk closure for public utilities is too long for pedestrians who have to contend with the sidewalk closure. I'm thinking, I understand if there's some kind of water issue, some electric issue, but 7 days is something that there should have been some pre-planning on. I think 7 days is too long when you think about the people in the city who have to be inconvenienced by a sidewalk closure, especially people who are visually impaired and they don't know that it's going to be there. So I would request that that ordinance change the number of days allowed. There is an ordinance in the agenda, and somebody on the council implied that it was meant to be a joke. I don't think it's a joke when you write something on the agenda and you put it in the ordinance and people have to look at it. But I do want to say it's not appropriate when people come, individuals come as individuals, and they're speaking on the same topic. There should be no requirement to have one spokesperson, even though people are speaking on the same topic. We come as individuals. And if it was a joke, it's not funny. I have a lot of concern about the fact that we do citations for quality of life violations, and when we have all these sidewalk blockages by businesses who are paying somebody to plow their parking lots, and they don't have the decency to make sure that they are leaving the sidewalk unblocked, that they should get more than just a letter, that they should be fined. It's the same businesses every year. Teresa's on Green Garden. It's just one that comes to mind readily, but it's not appropriate, and churches and schools. Also, the city, as I said, last year we didn't have a lot of snow, but Brown Street, all the intersections, where the crosswalks were blocked, and they're blocked this year. So it isn't just because we had a lot of snow this year. It's because the city needs to come up with places to move snow so that they do not block the crossings. People have a right to use the sidewalks this time of year, but they can't even get to them. They can't even get to the push buttons. I sometimes go on 17th and I turn onto Sass, and it's very dangerous when people are parked in front of Larry's Grocery, especially when I saw an SUV police vehicle there. I learned about a technique called daylighting an intersection, and there ought to be some kind of one of those bulb outs there and some kind of thing to make it more visible. So the police should not be parking illegally when they go to buy their lunch at Larry's. They were not there on a call, because when I called the police, they said they were not there on a call. I support the Home Rule Charter Study Commission for the economic reasons that Mr. Nelson has brought up, but also because we need to be able to elect our council members by district. It's ridiculous. Sometimes we've had almost everybody from the 5th and 6th Ward. It's a little better right now. And also, if we do have it, that the city should hold a petition signing event so the people who want to be on the commission can get their 200 signatures more easily. And if it's going to be in February, if it's going to be on the May primary, we ought to find out about it right away. Otherwise, we still need to have a petition signing event for whenever it is. Apparently, there are families in Erie who are expecting their Afghan relatives to be able to come to the United States. People who worked with our military during the war, and because of the new president, they're being denied the ability to come here. I hope that the city, which is supposed to be a welcoming city, will take a position on this officially. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Good evening, Carl Anderson, 3830 Parade Boulevard here in the city of Erie. Mr. Council President, congratulations to you on the role that you have undertaken for 2025, and to all the members of council. The work you do on behalf of our community is important work, and it's appreciated. What you do is truly intended to be community service, and the best work is when it's not perceived or presented to be self-service. I've been involved in a community and many community projects for most of my adult life. Most recently, the effort to create a community college in our community, an effort which took nearly 50 years and 3 failed attempts to achieve. What I learned in all of that time is that what is worth doing is worth taking the time and making the investment to do it. It never happens, it seems to never happen fast enough in our time, but seems to happen in government time. A much harder, more deliberate, and a much more necessity for a patient road. The wheels of government move slow, so they say, but with good reason. In many instances, it's to ensure a methodical ebb and flow of government of, for, and by the people. This works for the majority of us all, and it tends to allow us to eliminate snap judgments made for short-term gains or agendas by the few, truly to bring on change for the right reasons. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, the saying goes. And although change can be a good thing, there is little to no benefit to change for change's sake. And I submit to you that change for change's sake is actually more harmful in the case of local government. You have before you tonight an agenda item to study our form of government. But as I was at the study session, I listened and heard what I saw was a presentation of a predetermined form of a home rule charter. And as explained by the state, this will only weaken the executive branch to create a city manager and only shift the tax revenue to having no ceiling on local taxes, but not reduce property taxes. Just a promise to not solely rely on them. Although on the surface this appears to be a promise that takes pressure off the seniors, in reality it will actually have the opposite effect over time, because high wage earners will tend to leave the city, as we've seen that exodus continue to happen. We should be working on solutions to bring younger wage earners into the city. And as I listened to the state, they cautioned, recommended a slow and deliberate, transparent process to properly inform and build a grassroots support in our community. A process they suggested should take a minimum of 9 months and will overall take a minimum of 3 years. Yet this effort somehow is moving forward contrary to that and being pushed in just 9 days. If we are sincere in the betterment of the community for all the people, this should be a question on the general election ballot, not the primary. Truly to give us time to build support and transparency in the community, more importantly, to build the support that will result in a positive outcome by the voters and not rejection because of mistrust or lack of understanding. And this actually occurred, for those who might remember, in the early 1990s when an undertaking similar to this happened. Perhaps most importantly is properly financially planning for this undertaking, which the state had suggested is going to cost a minimum of $200,000 and upwards of nearly $500,000. In total, this plan right now lacks fiscal responsibility and accountability because there is no money to pay for it. By taking the recommendation of the state and having the 9-month lead time, this will allow us to write grants, raise money, and actually put together a budget to ensure the success of this project. Most importantly, we need to reflect the ideas that are most beneficial to all the citizens of this community. I ask you to put this off
your
until
time's
the fall.
up, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
President.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Mary Rennie. I live on 3831 Elliott Road, Erie, Pennsylvania. I'm here to speak on the resolution to approve the Higher Education Building Authority's bond issuance for Gannon University. And I'm here to speak as a representative of Keep Our Library Public. The Erie County Public Library has a long and shared history with Gannon University. When Gannon was founded on the strength of the Villa Maria Charter, it was the main library on Perry Square within the city of Erie that made it possible for Gannon to maintain accreditation standards for years until they were able to meet them themselves as an institution with the establishment of the Nash Library and perhaps before that. Likewise, officials from Gannon were honored guests at the dedication of the Bayview Commons and the Blasco Memorial Public Library in 1996. The Blasco Library, as the district center library for Erie and Crawford counties, the only library in the city of Erie, has partnered with Gannon University many times over the years in partnerships that were well done, well received, worthwhile. I do not dispute the value added by Gannon to the city of Erie. As the 1967 Pennsylvania Legislative Act, which allowed the formation of the authority, quote, to promote the education and welfare of the people of the Commonwealth. Gannon's refinancing of the bond issue and the process of that, I have to congratulate city government on. It was a process that was well done. You did your due diligence, and it was very much appreciated. Gannon has a total enrollment of around 4,700 graduate and undergraduate students, with some estimates of international students being as high as 20%. They too enrich our community. The Blasco Library serves all of Erie County and Crawford County, but it is the only library in the city of Erie and serves more than 92,000 residents. Going by the Erie County Administrative Code, all of human knowledge is considered within the purview of its responsibility and its reach. The library's reach is educational, like Gannon, yes, but it is much broader than that. It is a doorway and platform into learning and literacy and inspiration that comes from interaction with others. You should be aware that the public interests were not served on the county side by the lease of the Blasco Library. In truth, they were not even addressed. There was no questions. There were no questions allowed. There was no impact study done. I ask this body to find it within themselves to show that support is not a one-way street, but a relationship between government, representatives, institutions like Gannon, and the people. Yes, there is ample room for continued partnerships, but let it be with mutual consent and understanding. Like the county, and as Carl said prior to me, this is a government of, by, and for the people. No one takes that lightly. Tonight, I ask that we, the people, be heard and honored, and to recognize that the common good is much larger than one private institution of higher education. Keep our library public. Keep our library public. Thank you.
Good evening. Name is Bob Strasser, lifelong resident of Erie, Lower East Side, 956 East 5th Street. So I've been here before, and I try to advocate for the east side of Erie. But I also look at things at the big level. So a lot of times I've come here in the past and talked about at the federal level regarding funding and things like that. But I also try coming to these meetings to deal at the local level, to be more involved. So we have a new year, and we have a new situation. We have a new president and a new administration. So what does that mean for Erie? Well, that's some of the things I'm probably going to try to continue to research and see what I can do to help out the city that I live in, and how we go about that. Like I said, at the federal level, we're still dealing with $36 trillion worth of debt. So that's probably still going to continue to have an effect on funding. But there are some things that are happening, so, and I'll get into some of those. I do have a suggestion now that we're dealing with a Republican president and an administration that doesn't usually go over well on that end. Being an independent, I kind of know the pros and cons of both, and that is a lot of Democratic cities saying that they're sanctuary cities. I would make a suggestion that during this time that maybe we change that to a city that is accepting to all. Because unfortunately, things are already underway to change things as far as immigrants. A lot on the Democrats' side would say we need these people to work crop jobs and in restaurants and things like that. However, some of my Republican friends, and another area that I have done a lot of research in and will talk to you about, is dealing with artificial intelligence. Those jobs are going to go to artificial intelligence. Even a lot of jobs that American citizens here already have are going to go to artificial intelligence. So we need to be able to realize that, adapt to that, and go from there with it. So the 3 stages of AI are normal AI, which was the beginning part a few years ago. We're now in the second stage, AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, and we're actually approaching from some research to where artificial intelligence is up at the PH level, not just the average human level, where artificial intelligence is going to be like at doctorate level intelligence. And then the next stage is going to be artificial superintelligence, which originally was projected to come here in 2080. Well, now they're saying it's going to be here by 2030, 2035. AGI, the one we're in, was projected to be here between 2030 and 2035, and here we are in 2025, and it's here. So it's growing, it's here. We have to realize that, and if you're not believing in that, you're going to be in for a shock, because things are going to continue to change fast. So some suggestions that I have, when I used AI for Erie for revitalization, one was for Erie maybe to consider to build and obtain some technology centers and hubs. And another one that I didn't even think of and made sense to me when AI presented it was Erie should build, utilizing our waterway, the lake and stuff, a cargo port hub, which on the Great Lakes, we would be like a smaller version of the ports like in Philadelphia on the East Coast and the ones in California around LA and all that. We should do something like that. We have the Bayfront Highway underway. Maybe the Erie Coke site could be some. I'm not saying to do that like down by Dobbins Landing or anything like that, but find some place. So the president yesterday signed a executive order dealing with the Stargate project, dealing with AI. It's going to bring in $510 billion over the next 4 years.
Sir, your time's up.
All right, so I will continue with some of this in future meetings.
Thank you
Mr.
very
President.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cole Shenley. I live in the city of Erie. I just have a couple things that I wanted to briefly talk about. One of which is the Home Rule Charter vote that will be happening tonight. I'd just like to, show my support for it. I think it's a good idea. I don't claim to be an expert in all of these things, but from what I have read and heard, I think the idea of empowering our citizens to have more of a say over how government is run and to do the hard work of putting together a home rule charter for the city, I think would be a very powerful and important moment in our city's history. And I hope we go forward with it. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is kind of piggybacking off of the last person, is the recent issues that are happening with our new president and immigration. Erie is supposed to be a welcoming city. We are a city of immigrants. We have been a city of immigrants for decades. I know that when, my parents, they come from two different parts of the city. My father comes from actually the part of the city that I live in now on the west side, over by St. Joseph Apartments, and very waspish family. My mother is a very proud Italian-American woman. And, she came from the east side over on Parade Street. We used to drive by her house, what remains of it. Unfortunately, it burned down after her family left. The plot of land is still there. And my parents raised me to be very welcoming and very, they wanted me to do right by people regardless of race and gender and ethnicity. And that was at a time, I'm going to be 42. This was 20 years ago, 25 years ago, before people used buzzwords like woke and things like that. And what I see now, I worry about the message we're going to be sending to our new American population if we are not doing things to protect them. And I know that the response will be, well, we're only going to go after the bad guys and things like that. But it's so easy for people who are still acclimating to this country to get caught up in something, not even that they've done anything wrong, just that were in the wrong place and an ICE raid hit near their house and they got swept up in it. And now they have to deal with the bureaucracy of, getting out of that situation, even if they themselves were not a perpetrator of some kind of crime. I have a friend who came here when she was a young woman and made the journey not with a legal status. And she is now married, and her husband does pretty well for himself in the military. They have a great family. I would hate to see somebody who came with her life be thrown out of our country just because they were seeking a better place. So I hope that you do consider making our area a sanctuary city and acting those powers like the way you did with the LGBT community last year. Also, I would not invest too much in AI either. That, considering we live on the Great Lakes, I know that it's a big deal now, but the environmental impact that AI data centers are having in our country is a pretty rough thing. So I would take a long, hard look at that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening. Gary Lackey, live on Green Garden Boulevard. Been here since '92. Been a remodeling contractor all those years. I was in the ministry for about 10 of those years, and finished my training here for what I thought I was going to step into in this community, which would have been a local church setting, like a pastor. But at the end of the start of living on Green Garden, I was departing from that and went back to just remodeling. And so I've worked over the house I live in on Green Garden a lot. Spent more money than it's worth right now, and we've seen serious inflation. I bet I've spent all that money there. So I'm pretty invested in wanting to stay there. But my comments were, it piqued my interest when I started watching the videos of the meetings and hearing about Home Rule Charter, and I thought about the book of Daniel. And so I had a chunk of it here. If I can get this closer to my face, it might let me open it again. I'm sure many of you know the story in the book of Daniel. Well, this part is where Daniel's translating the dream that king saw. And he says, "Your Majesty, in your vision you saw standing before you a giant statue, bright and shining, terrifying to look at. Its head was made of the finest gold, its chest and arms were made of silver, its waist and hips of bronze, its legs of iron and its feet, partly of iron and partly of clay. And while you were looking at it, a great stone broke loose from a cliff without anyone touching it, struck the iron and clay feet of the statue and shattered them. At once the iron, clay, bronze, silver, and gold crumbled and became like dust on a threshing place in the summer. The wind carried it all away, leaving not a trace, but the stone grew to be a mountain that covered the whole earth." Now, I don't want to read a whole bunch because what's the timer, about 3 minutes? Is it, where I'm at? Yeah, 5?
So if you want to give us a little more Bible, that's fine.
Okay, well, I have comments, but the point I'm getting at is we're looking at 600 years before Jesus was born, when Daniel lived in this space and he translated for the king what he saw from the effect that human government was taking back then. It was the head of gold. Nebuchadnezzar was in charge. If he liked you, he kept you. He put you in a nice place. If he hated you, he killed you. That's the way a king works. We now live on the other end of the spectrum. The spectrum where we're talking about being at the feet and or the toes, where there's iron and clay mixed together and they don't mix. And so the kind of government that we now have to help one another keep order is never going to mix. We're always going to have, like we've had, I saw a few of the meetings in December, and there was, of course, a lot of, discussion of how different we are. Well, it's just the way it's going to be. And I perceive that going forward into what might be a home rule charter is also a kind of a moving down the path further away from one person being in charge, like a mayor, or in that case back in Daniel's day, a king. And so we're going to probably need people who have more clay in them, which to me speaks of humanitarianism, environmentalism, the aspects of, of being of the earth, and where iron, it speaks of being in charge, being rich, being thick, and being able to say and do like a Trump. He's more of that irony guy, and we just left a series of, 4 years of a very clay mixture, trying to present, help for the whole world, and we're all drowning in it. So, but we need each other. It's just difficult to make it work, and it's going to increasingly be difficult down the Home Rule Charter, unless we can verify. Do we have a little bit of clay and a little bit of iron in these folks that are going to try to help us decide, how we're going to do this? Because typically, the city I came from, Lima, Ohio, Ohio's a pretty red state, been that way. Came over here to Pennsylvania in '92. It's a pretty blue state, typically. Well, the city, both in Lima, it's voted blue since I lived there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
And this city is that same way. I'm just saying we need something to help bring in the flip side of what we don't normally have here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Deontay Cooley, lifelong Erie resident. Appreciate the time to speak. And Ms. Flores, I appreciate the comments that you made earlier when the meeting started, because that's what I came to speak to. Again, the last time I was here, I spoke to a young man being murdered in the street by Erie High or 31st and Liberty. Since that last meeting, there have been 2 more people that have been murdered. A young lady allegedly was murdered by another young lady, accidental shooting to where the young lady was shooting at somebody else. Then there was just another shooting taking place where a young man passed away. And I'm just I guess I'm curious to know if there's an actual plan, or if we can make that a priority to figure out how we can address some of these things and kind of get in front of it. A friend of mine was murdered 11 years ago, January 5th. And I'm not sure if you all remember, but that wreaked havoc on the city of Erie. As far as the young people in Erie, we had a young men considering themselves to be in gangs, where you got the Four Nation thing going on, and you got all of these, different people claiming different sets. And if you pay attention to some of the things that are going on in social media based on the conversations that are taking place of the events, it could be premature to say, but I can see it turning into that, to where it's families speaking for justice for their family, and then families speaking for the well-being of their family, to where these families are arguing, and it's turning into a whole big deal. I'm not exactly sure what can be done, if it's some type of conflict resolution or some type of assistance with those families. I'm not sure if public statements will be the answer, or if any of you all have reached out to some of those families individually to let them know that, the awareness is there, we are thinking of you, or it is being considered. I mean, at this point, again, I only see it getting worse. And I've been living in Erie my entire life, and when I say a good friend of mine, and I lost a lot of good friends to the system, our friends end up dying, arguing with one another, to where people don't even want to talk to people don't want to go to different sides of the town. And Erie is small enough to where everybody knows everybody, so it's going to continue to get worse before it gets better. I'm not exactly sure what the answer or the solution is. I'm willing to be active in the process of helping and of assisting. I feel like maybe if some type of outreach could happen within these communities, and I don't mean the typical way that we do it with the community centers and things of that sort, because that doesn't work. I understand, I'm aware that there are resources that are available, so I know that there are efforts in place to assist some of these people who are dealing with some of these issues, but they're not coming to those places, they're not coming to those spaces, and we can say we're trying, but it is getting worse. A young lady allegedly killed another young lady. Then there's a young man who was just killed, and this is the beginning of the year. Within 30 days, 40 days, we've had 3 young people, probably not even over the age of 25 years old, die to gun violence. I'm not sure, again, if there's some type of public safety group or task force or something that we're working on to kind of make this a priority, but I would encourage that we make this a priority and figure out what we can do, how we can involve ourselves with those families, or even some figures in the community who consider themselves leaders, if we can kind of lean into them to see if they can assist with the process, because again, like, these are children, like, these are our children, like, and I come from these neighborhoods. I've ran through these programs, and I've had some of these different mentors that had an impact in my life that helped me go right when I was going left. So I understand the importance of it. I understand the value of it, and I definitely see the need in it, because it took 10 years to clean up a mess. That was an accident on 10th and Parade at the Turners. It took 10, 11 years to figure out how we're going to get to the bottom of this, to where a lot of those young men went to jail or still in jail, and it trickled down to the younger men to where it went into the high schools. What we don't want to happen is the rest of our kids to be killing and dying off for the next 10 years, where we're trying to solve all of the problems that we're going to be potentially dealing with the new administration, because there's just going to be more problems on top of more problems. And there are people who are ignorant to some of the things that we are discussing in here that is going to make Erie a nicer and a better place for us to live. But in the process of us building Erie to be a better place, there are going to be people who are going to die, who are going to kill, because they don't understand what we are doing. So I'm not exactly sure what the plan is or what the plan can be. I'm willing to be active in the plan. I'm just hoping that we can kind of make this a priority or put it on the agenda to where we need to do something to help these young people. Thank you all.
Mr. Cooley,
Yes, sir.
if you call the city clerk's office, she'll give you my numbers to get a hold of me. We might as well start. There's groups out here. We need to find out what groups are doing what, and then we can go from there. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
John Granahan, Rosedale Avenue, lifelong resident. Very proud 28-year member of the Erie Fire Department, well-run department. Kudos to the fire department. Penelec has seen a way for smoothing their operations, nothing that's an emergency, by shutting off our electricity for 6 hours. I applaud Representative Harkin's office. They have been in contact with Penelec a number of times, and when they talk to them, they say, oh, we're canceling that. It'll be a later date. And then they delay it by 2 days or 3 days. They've done that 2 times now. We have a lot of elderly people, a lot of handicapped people. The lady next door to me is 76 years old, has to be on oxygen. She has to have care most of the 16 to 20 hours a day. We have young people, sometimes single-parent families, that don't have much experience in life. And they have little children, and they have no place to go. They're struggling to get along, and if they had a place to go, they have no way to get there. I don't know about anyone else's house, but my furnace has been running like crazy. It takes electricity. Even when you have a gas appliance, it takes electricity. How many people, elderly people, are going to get burned trying to light their gas stove because they don't have electricity because of the igniters? And all the stoves today have igniters. We all know that. If they have, lady next door has an electric stove. She has no way to get any heat in her house. If you drive down the streets and you pay attention, you will see the lifts on the front of their houses. These are all handicapped people. Many of them with psychological problems, health problems, and don't tell me that Penelec couldn't schedule this for springtime. I don't care. The city has always had lawyers that are available to them that they pay something for. How about an injunction to get them not to halt this until springtime, until nicer weather, at least 60 degrees? Let them answer in court why a public utility is going to stiff the public by taking out our heat. What about the Public Utility Commission? I'll bet none of the people involved live around here. I'll bet they all live in someplace nicer and warmer. Harrisburg's a lot warmer than we are, and they get a little bit of cold weather. Just a couple days ago down south, they had a short temperature drop. People were dying. What are people supposed to do? Are they going to come to my house and bring heat to my house? I can't afford a $5,000 Generac on the side of my house. How about the lady next door with no heat in her house? No way to go anywhere or get relief. This is abhorrent. To me, it borders on negligence and criminal activity. Something needs to be done. As an individual, when you call customer service, you get a runaround and they say, oh, well, we'll let somebody know. No one you talk to will be able to make a decision. But it's when organizations like yourselves, or like a big business, maybe like Erie Insurance, or something like that, or if all the churches got together and made a stand, maybe that would make a difference. There is no negative side for them unless it's bad publicity. We all got to pay our electric bills whether we like it or not, whether they shut it off for 6 hours or not. I don't have a problem with them working on their system at all. We haven't had any trouble with electric in my neighborhood, but we have a lot of elderly people, a lot of people that are handicapped, a lot of people that are just plain struggling and don't have any place to go. They can't go to a motel. I don't know how many churches are there, but if they are accepting people to come in and stay and get warm and eat, well, they don't have a way to get there. And many of them have young babies. I see people when they have to, they're pulling kids down the street in strollers because their babies are only months old. What about the kids that come home? Their parents are working, and they have the young teenagers that have to take care of their younger brothers and sisters. What are they supposed to do? What kind of information have they got in their life where they can accept the responsibility, but it's going to be there whether they like it or not? Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and any efforts you might put forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope to see
Sir?
you at the courts.
I'm breaking my own rules, I'm sorry, but your address again?
736 Rosedale Avenue.
736 Rosedale.
And I'm looking forward to seeing you at the basketball courts this year if you're there.
You get to see me, but I ain't playing no more.
You're not playing no more? Don't tell me you can't still dunk.
Yeah, donut and a cup of coffee.
Thank you very much for your time. I
No.
really appreciate it. Please do something.
Give the clerk's office a call. I don't work up there anymore, but I still have some contacts. I want to look into this.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Austin, West 9th Street, and I want to comment that Councilman Horton appointed me to the Erie County Planning Commission, and that's because of the work that a number of us did, Roland Slade, Cynthia Mohammed, Janice Cole, and Adam Trott. The work we did over the last 10, 15 years trying to save the viaduct and also trying to prevent the highway that's coming to the waterfront. We proposed a Bayfront Boulevard. But I'm here tonight specifically to offer congratulations because I'm not sure if all of you are aware that the American Planning Association, the Pennsylvania chapter, actually awarded the city of Erie an award for the Historic Preservation Plan, which is now embedded in the zoning code in Article 7, which established the Historic Review Commission, which is really exciting. And one of the things I would just want to bring up tonight is that on November 7th at the HRC meeting, the city attorney was advising the members of the commission, the commission, that the Article 7 needed to be changed in order to require that the owner of a property that was going to be nominated for the designation be a party and give their approval to the process. And actually, the state law, the Supreme Court state law, as well as the federal courts have upheld now for over 30 years that preservation, believe it or not, I don't think we know it here in Erie, but preservation is actually equal to a building code or a zoning code, in that individual property owners certainly have a right to ask for a variance or a hardship kind of situation, but they actually don't have the right to opt out. And so that's a piece of information that even the city lawyer was not aware of, that this is sort of, again, established law. And so I just wanted to comment that we do have a proposal that we submitted a nomination back in October. And I know that at this point, there's some conversation going on about changing this Article 7, this historic preservation part of the zoning code. And I would say that while there might be some need for a modification in terms of notifying any property owners, which I think is so important, but the idea that a property owner should give their approval of any nomination, or that only certain people with certain standing should be allowed to submit a nomination, is really a disservice to the award that the city has gotten. I would say that anyone should be able to bring an application to the Historic Review Commission. This is actually a lot of work to document, to get the maps, to get the photographs, to do the research for the history, as I've done with other people. And I want to say that, so it's very important that as you look forward to the conversations with the attorney here at the city and the zoning hearing board and the preservation group here in the city, that you really don't undermine the really strong position that you already have that's part of the zoning code. So that's really what I wanted to focus on tonight, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other citizens to be heard? Are there any other citizens to be heard? Are there any other citizens to be heard? Hearing none, we'll continue with the agenda.
Ordinances for final passage. Council file number 16492, official ordinance 3, 2025, an ordinance amending Article 101 by adding subsection 101C, authorizing a referendum on the question of studying the existing form of government and considering the advisability of the adoption of a home rule charter for the city of Erie. Sponsored by Councilmember Nelson, seconded by Councilmember Titus. The council file ordinance 16492, and now known as official file ordinance 3, 2025, be finally passed by City Council.
Discussion? Hearing none?
Mr. President, I'm going to speak. I want to make it very, very clear that I am for a home rule study session, study commission. I have a huge problem with pushing it into May. People who don't know anything about the home rule charter have to make up their minds in a very short time. And then they'll have a maximum maybe of 3 weeks to get 200 signatures. Freda, who would be an excellent person on there, is one of the folks that's worried about the 200. But she knows what's going on with the home rule charter. Other folks, and I've spoken to quite a few of them that I've worked with here in this dais and other places, and they all said the same thing. Give me some time to study it more. Why are we jumping on it the way we're jumping on it so quickly? I still believe that we have enough time to get it on the docket again for November and get it done right. Get Gannon involved with the political science classes. Same thing Mercer's has folks up there. Jerry Clark. I can go on and on with the people that could be integral parts of this to make our city better and stronger, and maybe just find out that we're doing pretty good the way we are now. That would be a decision for the city of Erie, not for somebody who can put together 7 people in a short time. Here to May, it's an awful short time. That's the reason that I am voting no for this ordinance, but making it very clear that the home rule charter thing is something that should be looked at maybe down the line, just to keep us honest. Thank you.
Just to clarify, are you voting no, or are you going to make a motion to table? There was some discussion in caucus about that.
Were you talking to me? I asked about a table, and you said you didn't want a table.
I'm going to vote against that, but
Any further discussion?
The only concern I have is the timeline. I mean, I know that it feels a little rushed. I don't want to be barred from not being able to do it in the coming years. So that's where my concern lays. I know we've had one study session and we have the willingness to be educated as a community on this issue. So for me, it's just, I don't want to rush it and then be barred. Like, I think our community has a lot of capable people out there who would be great to serve on this board. I just want to make sure that we're doing this correctly. That's my only concern. I'm in favor of it. I want to give power to our voters. I want to give power to our community. I feel like when I have conversations with my community, they feel pessimistic on the fact that it doesn't matter, nothing changes. And I feel like this is pushing in the direction of giving more power to our community and more power to the voters. I just want to make sure we do it right. That's all I have to comment. Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
President, may I ask the solicitor, what's the difference between voting it down and tabling it? If we table it and we bring it back up, would that virtually be the second and final reading for the ordinance?
You would just have to start over with the process. So this was, we drafted the ordinance. So if you voted it down today,
Yeah.
it would be voted down. There's been talk though of putting it on the general election in November, and we already know the deadlines for that would be to pass something in August, and we already have it drafted. You would just have to probably change the identification number, and you can vote on it then in August.
And if it's tabled?
If it's tabled, this is still active.
It's still be two votes when we bring it back?
No, but I think the problem though is that Mr. Nelson is correct. I think we talked about the deadlines. So we already have a deadline for petitions that starts, and correct me if I'm wrong, on February 18th.
Correct, and then March
So-
11th is the deadline.
So the goal for the double reading in January was that people could then be educated, prepared, get their petitions ready, get the signatures ready. If you table it, it's not going to be official at least until the next city council meeting, which will be the first one in February, which makes us a little closer. So it's up to you guys what you want to do. Tabling it, though, makes the deadline argument probably a little stronger, perhaps, but that's just neither here nor there. If you say no to it, then you would have to start the whole thing over again, because technically the ordinance would be dead.
So let me offer some discussion on that. So I believe it should be passed today. I'm going to vote as that reflects. If there was a motion to table, I would vote against that. However, it would then be able to be brought up at the end of February for one more reading, and then it'd go straight to November. That would be, I'm against that. We should pass it today. Lancaster is the most recent city to pass a home rule charter. At this point, 2 years ago, the mayor was undecided on whether or not they should even do it. This is plenty of time. The time that is done is during the campaign. That's when people get informed. And then after that, the commission sets up an education committee. This vote today would be to put it on for May. And then, as we talked about getting input, there was a comment from the public about having it on the higher turnout election. It's an 18-month process. Then the final vote is on the higher election turnout. If we wait until November, then the turnout gets bumped into the primary of the following year, and I think you lose a little bit on the input side there. And then you lose a whole year of being able to use the revenue as this would shift things. So, I mean, I think it should be voted yes today. That's going to be reflected all the way across, but I think some of you may want to consider some other alternative options if you say what you're saying. But I'm only voting to indicate that it should be passed today.
Any further discussion?
President Witherspoon. I'm going to be a yes vote. I understand what Councilor Nelson has laid out, the timeline, especially when it comes to the general election being the second vote. I think that makes the most sense. You'll get the most input. So, just for me, I'm going to be a yes vote, and just reiterate what Councilor Nelson has said.
Any further discussion?
I was the only one to vote no for what Jasmine's talking about the last time. It's, I went to the Erie Grassroots Coalition on Thursday evening and mention that if we're just voting for, putting it on the ballot without those commission people, I understand that, but I really feel that we need to get the word out better than we are doing. That's just my personal opinion. But I just feel rushed, but I was never one to hurry about things, so.
Call for the question.
Question?
Voting on the ordinance, council members Brzezinski,
No.
Flores, Nelson, Schaaf,
No.
Titus, Troop, Witherspoon.
No.
Ordinance fails to pass 3-4. Council file number 16493, official ordinance 4/2025, an ordinance amending Article 521 by adding subsection 521A4, parking restrictions in bike lanes as lanes of travel, to prohibit parking generally in bike lanes as lanes of travel, to continue to implement the planned expansion of designated lanes of travel of bicyclists, to increase the safety and visibility of bicyclists, and to provide exemptions to the prohibited parking in bike lanes. Sponsored by Council Member Nelson, seconded by Council Member Schaaf. The Council File Ordinance Bill Number 16493, and now known as Official File Ordinance 4/2025, be finally passed by City Council. Members Brzezinski,
No.
Flores,
No.
Nelson, Schaaf, Titus, Troop, Witherspoon.
No.
City Council pass Official File Ordinance 4/2025 finally by yeas 4, nays 3. Council File Number 16494, Official Ordinance 5/2025, an ordinance amending the codified ordinances of the City of Erie, Article 71911, construction closure of sidewalks, to add Section 71911I to exempt short-term closures by public utilities from the requirement to obtain sidewalk closure permits. Sponsored by Councilmember Brzezinski, seconded by Councilmember Titus. The Council File Ordinance Bill Number 16494, and now known as Official File Ordinance 5/2025, be finally passed by City Council. Members Brzezinski?
Can I have a discussion just so that the solicitor can explain the updates that are going to occur? Because I did work on this resolution, well, this ordinance, and I got it passed. So this was something that I did work on for our residents, and I wanted to be explained why we are giving leeway to these specific entities. Thank you.
Okay, excuse me, I think Attorney Betza was the one who handled this, but the premise was that the original sidewalk closure ordinance that was drafted and passed last year, it was a pretty tight schedule. They had to get a permit, and so it was either Penelec or National Fuel, one of the utility companies, that had requested there be essentially a loosening of the necessary to get a permit for projects, I believe, that were 7 days or less.
And more so emergency, correct?
Emergency, correct. So that they can get in there, fix it, and then be done with the whole project within a couple of days is kind of the description. I think 7 days was what was written into that in case it was a more severe emergency, but that's pretty much, that's the reasoning behind it, though. So, and then if it was to take more than 7 days, then they would have to follow the process and get a proper permit. But presumably emergencies would be able to be fixed quicker than that.
Right.
And then
I'm
planned
hoping
projects.
by day 3, it should be resolved before it got to the 7-day marker. I'm hopeful, but I just wanted there to be clarification, on the record on what it was that we're giving the National Fuel and Penelac, you know, a little bit more grace in as far as the closures for the sidewalk. So thank you.
You're welcome, thanks.
Thank you very much.
I had a follow-up question.
Yes, go ahead.
Was there a reason that was presented as to why it was 7 days versus 5 days?
No. I don't know the specific answer why 7 days was in there. That's what Attorney Betza had drafted. I think 7 days was probably thought to be a reasonable amount of time to fix an emergency. You know, I would assume that they were considering, like for instance, the winter weather when the ground is frozen, it probably takes a little longer to dig into the ground when it's frozen versus when it's not frozen. So maybe that extra day, that could take a day or two to fix, would take then 3 or 4 days. I'm just guessing on a practical part of it. But 7 days must have seemed reasonable.
I'm just factoring in there's only 5 weekdays in that 7-day gap, so depending on, you know, most utilities are Monday through Friday. You don't know if the issue started on the weekend, they might have to wait till Monday, you know? I don't know. But I'm just saying, I just know that there was an alternate reason on why we needed to allow the utilities to have some grace, and I think it's more so if they need to dig in the ground, they don't want to have to ask for approval before they start to do the needed repairs.
I mean, and the other thing too is if they start digging on Saturday, you know, City Hall's not open on Saturday, so that way they can get right to the problem, hopefully. I mean, there's a couple of things for that as well.
I think my biggest area of concern was one of the comments that was just brought up before, just assuring that those who are relying on the sidewalks being clear, that this just makes it exceptionally more difficult. And but there are some other areas I think that we also need to address in this too. I just wanted clarification.
No,
Thank
but
you.
I would say at the utilities though, so understanding that there's the sidewalk issue, but if I'm National Fuel, I'm hopefully fixing a gas line that goes into a home or a series of homes. I'm fixing electricity that again affects maybe multiple people too. So I think the goal of this was to help as many people as possible and then hopefully minimize
the amount of
bothering other people and disruption. So I think that's where the 7 days is, and that's kind of the logic behind it, in my understanding.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? Voting on the ordinance, council members Brzezinski, Flores, Nelson, Schaaf, Titus, Troop, Witherspoon. City Council pass official file ordinance 5/2025 finally by yea 7, nay 0. Council file number 16495, official ordinance 6/2025, an ordinance amending and supplementing the codified ordinances of the City of Erie, Part 3, Title 3, Business Regulation, by amending Article 354, rental housing, in the definition found in Section 4 and the term landlord to exclude the housing authority of the City of Erie from the definition. Sponsored by Councilmember Witherspoon, seconded by Councilmember Brzezinski. The Council File Ordinance Bill Number 16495, and now known as Official File Ordinance 6/2025, be finally passed by City Council. Members Brzezinski, Flores, Nelson, Schaaf, Titus, Troop, Witherspoon. City Council pass Official File Ordinance 6/2025 finally by yea 7, nay 0. Council File Number 16496, this is for first reading now. An ordinance appropriating the sum of $100,000 to be received from the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency, PHFA, and made available through the Pennsylvania Housing Affordability and Rehabilitation Enhancement Fund, FAIR. The funding will be utilized to provide grants to low and moderate income owner occupants for repairs or improvements to their homes. Sponsored by Councilmember Schaaf, seconded by Councilmember Titus. The Council File Ordinance Number 16496, having been read, is hereby adopted on first reading by City Council. Members Brzezinski, Flores, Nelson, Schaaf, Titus, Troop, Witherspoon. City Council read and adopt Council File Ordinance 16496 by yea 7, nay 0 on first reading. Council File Number 16497, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $1 million from unappropriated and unanticipated revenue for the expenditure thereof for a $1 million grant from the Department of Justice, BJA FY24, encouraging innovation program for auto theft and enforcement and prevention. Sponsored by Councilmember Witherspoon, seconded by Councilmember Schaaf. The Council File Ordinance Number 16497 have been read as hereby adopted on first reading by City Council. Members Brzezinski, Flores, Nelson, Schaaf, Titus, Troop, Witherspoon. City Council pass, read and adopt Council File Ordinance 16497 by yea 7, nay 0 on first reading. Council File Number 16498, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $81,889 from unappropriated and unanticipated revenue for the expenditure thereof for a grant from the Department of Justice FY24 JAG program, local solicitation for police equipment. Sponsored by Councilmember Witherspoon, seconded by Councilmember Schaaf. The Council File Ordinance 16498 have been read as hereby adopted on first reading by Erie City Council. Members Brzezinski, Flores, Nelson, Schaaf, Titus, Troop, Witherspoon. City Council read and adopt Council File Ordinance Number 16498 by yea 7, nay 0 on first reading. Council File Number 499, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $1 million from unappropriated and unanticipated revenue for the expenditure thereof from the City of Erie ARP fund interest and will be used to fund the Capital Improvement Fund. Sponsored by Councilmember Nelson, seconded by Councilmember Schaaf. The Council File Ordinance Number 16499 have been read as hereby adopted on first reading by Erie City Council. Members Brzezinski, Flores, Nelson, Schaaf, Titus, Troop, and Witherspoon. City Council read and adopt Council File Ordinance 16499 by yea 7, nay 0 on first reading. Council File Number 16500 has been pulled from the request of the sponsor. Okay, in old business.
I'd like to move the balance. Oh, no, sorry.
Council File, no. Resolved by the Council of the City of Erie that pursuant to Pennsylvania 47 PS 461B3 and a public hearing held by City Council held on Wednesday, January 8th, 2025 at approximately 9:30 a.m. in City Council chambers, the request for local designation of 411 State Street, Erie, PA as a historic structure per the provisions of Article 7 of the City of Erie zoning ordinance, historic resource protection, be hereby approved. Council members Brzezinski, Flores, Nelson, Schaaf, Titus, Troop, Witherspoon. Resolution passes 7-0. And resolved pursuant to Pennsylvania 47 PS 4-461B3 and a public hearing held by City Council Wednesday, January 8th at 9:30 a.m. The request for local designation of 1372 West 6th Street, Erie, PA as a historic structure per the provisions of Article 7 of the City of Erie zoning ordinance, historic resource protection, be hereby approved. Members Brzezinski, Flores, Nelson, Schaaf, Titus, Troop, Witherspoon. Resolution passes, yeas 7, nays 0.
Motion to move the balance.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Any separations?
Number 3.
Under new business?
Yes.
Any other separations? Moving the balance of the agenda. Members Brzezinski, Flores, Nelson, Schaaf, Titus, Troop, and Witherspoon. Okay, number 3 in new business is a resolution approving the City of Erie Higher Education Building Authority to undertake a project for Gannon University and approving the issuance of bonds by the authority to finance the project. Sponsored by Council Member Titus, seconded by Council Member Shaw. Discussion?
Just want to thank all the people who spoke today, but I am for this because the Higher Education Board Authority has a long established history, the things that they have to do. And so last meeting, we appropriated a board so that they could continue to have Gannon University do their bonds. And it's like a family. You may disagree about one aspect of them, but it doesn't mean you completely go against everything. And this is a needed thing that we put in place and continues. And I am voting yes because I'm, again, with the feeling that it was necessary what we did. So it's up to the Higher Education Board Authority to take care of their business with Gannon. And that's their decision, and what happens, happens. So I was at Gannon opening of their Audi. The Highmark Center is very beautiful, and I've gone to games in the past, and boy, oh boy, I wish I were back in my youthful days, because if I was an athlete, their locker rooms and everything that they redid are really, truly remarkable. And their gymnasium is completely, if you haven't seen it, it's top rate. I think it's pretty exceptional. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a question. I attended the authority meeting, not knowing that I'm automatically on the authority as president of council. And they presented a slate, which they voted on, and they made me chairman of the authority. Therefore, my question is, should I abstain from this vote?
No, but did you vote on the measure at that did you vote on it at that meeting?
I guess my silence said I didn't say yes or no. I was surprised.
I would say, just on the side of caution, I would abstain.
Okay, I'll abstain.
Any other discussion? Voting on the resolution, members Brzezinski, Flores, Nelson, Schaaf, Titus, Troop, Witherspoon abstains. Resolution passes, yeas 6, nays 0. This takes us to committee reports.
Okay, committee reports.
Want to go first?
Councilwoman.
Alrighty, so we've been having some email difficulties, so we got our board liaison and committee assignments, I want to say last week or the week before. I have yet to attend a meeting, but I hope that once our emails are situated and my devices are updated, I'll be able to attend what I've chosen to be a liaison for and a committee person for. I do know that there's a possibility for something changing because VP Titus wants to switch something. So I'll know more on my committee assignments going into the next meeting for February, so that gives us a little bit of time. I just wanted to, you know, say that the last couple of days have been really cold in our community. I sympathize with the gentleman who has mentioned our elderly and disabled community members going hours without any type of electricity. I do not think that that is acceptable. I know between the months of, I want to say, December and March, it's illegal for them to turn our utilities off. So I don't understand why it's acceptable for them to have a few hours out of a very cold time of the year for our community to, you know, shut down. I don't know if it was an emergency on which they needed to shut down, but I do want to look into this. And I know Council President Witherspoon has relations with Penelac, so hopefully we can find out some additional information on this specific issue. And I also just wanted to mention, you know, with our roads and our sidewalks being impacted with snow, we have to be very vigilant for our community members who are walking, especially those that are walking after 5. It's hard to see people until they're right in front of your vehicle, and I want us to be precautious because we are in vehicles. We can take our time. There's no reason for us to be rushing and potentially ending an individual's life because we didn't pay much attention. So I just want us to do better to prioritize our pedestrians who are on the streets because it's not safe for them to be on the sidewalks. Thank you. That's all I have.
I went to my airport authority liaison just this afternoon. Things are going well there. They're at 92% capacity to close out the year. They've added that third destination. They had their reorganization meeting, and it was otherwise just a very quick meeting as new board members came on with all good stuff to report. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So there's been a lot of meetings that have happened these past few weeks. I met with the zoo and Erie events. Throughout the conversations, it continues to be abundantly clear that there is the desire for the same things, community to thrive and their regional assets to thrive. I've been reassured by both the zoo and Erie events that they would also like to see not just the zoo thrive, but the ice rink and the golf course as well. And I know that those have both been a concern and a focus of City Council and the community. So they would like to see both of those entities also continue to exist and thrive. And really the focus being on ensuring our region continues to have this asset for not only others to visit, but for our community members and those who call Erie home to continue to utilize, but to maximize their potential. I do request that there had been a discussion with the director at the Erie Parking Authority needing some information back from the administration regarding designation of a few congested areas that they had submitted a few months back. I'll re-forward that email on. They need this address. It's affecting the community members who live in that area. It's down by the hospital. I've had a lot of conversations around the Home Rule Commission. There is some conversations that have people have been confused, but mostly it's been a great deal of support and wanting to see this move forward as they feel that it gives them a stronger voice in their form of government. I will say with the passage of the bike lane that I really do think that it's incumbent upon the administration to make a clear, accessible way of obtaining those exemptions if somebody qualifies for it, and making sure that those who would be enforcing any fines or penalties, that they know if someone's been granted that exemption. I think that's really important for us. And other than that, it is very cold. It is very cold. Be checking on our neighbors. We'll have a little bit of a heat wave. I think it gets up into the 20s tomorrow, so that'll be great. But still make sure we're checking on our neighbors. And to come back to one of the comments that we had around just the library and the resolution that we passed, fully agree that what was done was not done as it should have been carried out. And so I did struggle with what was placed before us, but felt that we needed to do what we needed to do to make sure that, honestly, that students weren't in jeopardy here. But as we kind of go forward and we move with this, I just ask that please be kind to one another and make sure that we're embracing the community and helping our neighbors. Things are going to be tough, things are going to be shifting, and believe it or not, we're getting ready to ramp into yet another election cycle. So just making sure that we're putting kindness and service first.
Mr. Brzezinski.
Yes, Mr. President. First of all, I look like Nanook in the North because I didn't get the second email that the heating plant was fixed. So
Yeah, we need that.
Mike told us be ready to be warm. I'm toasty though, so it still feels good. Back to business. I almost let the cat out of the bag last time. I am liaison to both the Port Authority and Erie Events. And they kind of formed another marriage. Erie Events has always been a fantastic thing for us to have on the bayfront there, the 8 Great Tuesdays. But the Port Authority wasn't as well equipped as the Erie Event Center is to make the program flow safely. I mean, they were running up the hill and filling up the tents and all kinds of things, and they did a great job. But Gus Pine, talking to Ms. Slomsky, Erie Events is going to take that over. And they have all of the abilities and the thoroughfare, I guess you would call it, to make it a lot safer for everybody. And I don't know how much better it can get because it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. The Port Authority at the same time is still, I wouldn't say knee-deep, probably neck-deep in the coke plant work, make sure that things keep on moving, however slowly they move with government. Other than that, I'm sorry that I couldn't do something about that bike lane. I firmly believe that bicycles and cars got along together for a whole bunch of years, and they should be able to still do it now. We're asking for trouble. I hope it already started, but I hope it ends and people can live together and make things better for everybody. That being said, happy January.
Councilman Troop.
Mr. President, so I spoke to people, people from Downtown Partnership sent me some notes to share. First one is February 4th, they're going to have their annual meeting at the Warner Theater at 4 p.m. And all city employees and council people are invited to that meeting. Number 2, they're going to have the Winter Carnival. It's the last weekend in February in Perry Square. Number 3, they're going to be announcing some grant opportunities for people coming up here shortly. So that'll be after their annual meeting, so that'll be going live here pretty soon. And then they wanted me to announce it February 1st and 2nd, 10 a.m. to noon at the downtown ice rink. They call it Sensory Saturday and Sunday. That's for in conjunction with We Rock the Spectrum Kids Gym. Neurodivergent is for neurodivergent skaters. They can skate with or without skates, and it's a way of them being inclusive, providing inclusive community programming. Also, just wanted to rehash some of the comments that I heard today. Since I've been on council, I've heard Freda. I can call her consistent. It's been sidewalks almost every time, so she's definitely consistent in that. I heard one person say, "City that is accepting of all." Another person said, "Do right by people." That was Cole, I believe. Clay and iron people, like the way that was put. These little Bible verses, you know. And also Mr. Cooley, Deontay. I would say he's consistent in his message about the youth violence and his passion towards that. So I'd like to thank the citizens for being consistent.
Thank you. Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, thank you, Brenda Martin, for taking time out of your evening to present to us. And hopefully the message goes out because we're on YouTube and Facebook. I've never been a part of a mentoring program per se, but I try to mentor people as I am able to, who I happen to meet and things like that along the way. So I believe in mentoring, and it's good to support it in the month of January and every month of the year. That's all. I feel like mentoring is definitely very valuable. I attended the ECAT tonight on safety of street traffic, and that was today. Everything is on, going to be on the website, so just because people weren't able to go, maybe because it's too cold outside or what have you, the time wasn't good, everything will be on the website. So they definitely want you to look at it and respond to it. There was a new water rescue truck that is now for the city, and not just used in the city, but in this Tri-County area, and totally was needed, because the one that they had was from 1978 and was given to them because nobody wanted it, and they, built it up so that was definitely needed, and that was from a grant. And it very much touched my heart that they memorialized it in the memory of Abby Skinner, who was a grant writer who brought millions of dollars into the city of Erie. Mayor Joe Schember, I really like your Thursday communication that you do on Thursdays. And instead of, like, when I can't come, I watch it, but it's much better being here in person, because when you're in person, you retain it better. I don't know, it just becomes more personal that way. So I don't teach on Thursdays, and I came on the Thursday that Jeffrey Parker Jr. was awarded an accommodation, and Sean Doherty was there from PennDOT District 1 as the safety press officer, Mark Schau, Chief County Detective, Erie County District Attorney's Office, and Maggie Nunley, Regional Program Administrator, Pennsylvania DUI. So I got to, and Jim Garrity was there as well, Director of the Public Affairs. But Officer Jeff Parker was not just, here for us, that he was also then recognized at an above level too. He got the Top Gun Award. It's on a news article that he did 126 DUI arrests in 2023. And that's part of the problem of traffic accidents and things of that happen in our city, is people who drive either distracted or inebriated or on drugs. And that can be any time of the day. It just doesn't happen at night. So I really want to give a good kudos to him. I went to the Grassroots Coalition at the Quality of Life Center on Thursdays, and I always like attending the neighborhood meetings, as we should. And they were kudoed for being a good grassroots community organization. The officer in charge, who goes to all the meetings, mentioned that 3 neighborhood watches that he knew of that he was supposed to be going to had been postponed or canceled, and the grassroots kept on going. They're a good group. They come out in anything. And at that time, I had asked Gary Horton if he was going to postpone the Martin Luther King Jr. walk. And no, Martin Luther King walks in anything. So I walked, and it was a very memorable experience for me. And also attended the Martin Luther King Awards dinner. I hope, Mel, I hope you give yourself kudos, because, I'll let you talk about your award that you got. You're not? Well, so when you go to the Martin Luther King Dinner Awards that they have every year, it's really a great experience. If you haven't gone, try to go. It's a community-oriented dinner, and I don't have the booklet with me, it's in the car, but people are given awards for community service, like Lisa Adams. It was on the news that she had gotten an award there, and then they have a big speaker, and you get to talk to people at your table who, I didn't even know some of the people, so it was great that way. But so our own Mr. Mel Witherspoon got the award for his service to our youth in the community with his basketball program of 35 plus years. So, thank you. I think that's all for now.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman Kathy. Once again, you made me last, huh? You had to talk about me last, huh? But I love you for it. To the citizens of our great city, twice a month, we sit here. This is the easy part of the job. Very easy. Every one of us feels a multitude of calls every day, emails that we receive that we have to respond to. And I say to anyone out there that's thinking of running for a political office, whether it's city council, county council, your time is not your time. Trust me on it. Okay, I serve on the Ticket and Tow Committee. If you get a ticket and you think you should not have received the ticket, you pay it and you fill out a form. I'm not sure if that form's online or not, but definitely come in, fill the form out, and it's very, very important. If you can be here and talk to the committee of 5, many times we refund that money back to the individual, and sometimes we don't. But if you can't make it, you're sick, for example, this type of weather, your kids are home, you have to stay home, call the city and let us know the reason. And we'll still look at it, but we'll set it aside for the next meeting. But if we don't hear from you, we may, not all the time, but we may vote not to return the money. Mayor?
Officially, the Solicitor's Office doesn't have a report, but I did want to piggyback on what you talked about with the Parking and Towing Committee. So I do believe there's a paper form out in the lobby area that someone can fill out, and then if you leave those with the lady in the lobby, they will then call the Solicitor's Office. Officially, the Solicitor's Office handles what I would call the administrative scheduling of the appeals, receiving the information, and so if you don't want to come down to City Hall and fill out the paper form, there is an online form. So if you go to the City of Erie's website, go to the solicitor's website specifically, and there's a link for a PDF form. You can then print that off, bring it down, mail it in. There's a phone number, or email it to us. Like I said, we do the administrative part of that. And then just to kind of also piggyback on what President Witherspoon said, if there's an issue, you filed the appeal, you've paid the ticket in advance, that's part of the rules. That's part of Section 528 of the city ordinances. You got to pay it in advance. Then call or email us and let us know that you can't make it. That's fine. We can always reschedule it. That's not a problem. I'm very liberal with that. Also, the other thing is part of the application process, there's a area where you can put in a written statement of, hey, I got this ticket. I shouldn't have. Here's my reason why. Just, so if you don't show up, you sleep in, you go to work, you completely forget about it. At least we have, not we, meaning me, I'm meaning the board, has some insight into why you're appealing the ticket. Not that you're just appealing it to waste people's time, So just kind of keep that in mind. Communication's key. And like I said, there's the online version, and there's, I think, like I said, the paper version in the lobby. Other than that, I have nothing else to report.
Thank you, and I'll be brief also. Just a couple things. I think Kathy said both of these. I just wanted to respond. The opening of Gannon's new gym, and every floor in there and every part of that was really, really impressive to me. I did go to Gannon, and I played intramurals there, and just to see how things have been improved there is really incredible. I'm very proud of that. Also, Kathy, thanks for the comments about our Thursday press conferences. We do work hard on those, and I've got a lot of people working with me on that, and we're pretty proud of that. And I also wanted to thank everybody that stayed tonight to watch this to the end, because a lot of people don't do that, and this is a high percentage of the people that were here. So thank you very much for that also.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President?
Sir.
Great job, rookie.
Ladies and gentlemen, this meeting's adjourned.
City Council adjourns at 8:21 p.m. Members Witherspoon, Brzezinski, Flores, Nelson, Schaaf, Titus, and Troop.